The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Café. This is the United Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Sicilian Corner, winner of the Italian Heritage Media Award, with your hosts, Tom Zappola and Mike Lomazzo.
Good morning, Mikey boy. How are you, my friend?
Doing well, man. Doing well. We got a beautiful, beautiful spring day here today. It's supposed to get close to 60 degrees. And you know something? The daffodils are coming up. The crocus are coming up. Things are coming up. And it's reborn. It's time to be reborn. That's what I call it.
You know what's funny? Yesterday, I was sitting under the palm tree outside my door here.
You didn't get hit by a coconut, did you?
Freaking thing missed me by about 3 feet. Swear to God.
Really?
Me by about 3 feet, honestly, because they're gigantic.
Oh, I was going to say, if they hit you, man, you're going to get a concussion.
I said, tell them, we can't sit under the old palm tree anymore.
No more underneath the old palm tree.
Hey, Mikey, why don't you introduce our guest? We have a great show today. This is, how do we describe this, Mike? Everything you want to know about plantings, flowers, gardens, this is the guy.
Absolutely. I'd like to introduce Tim Wolf, owner and operator of Lake Street Garden Center right here in Salem, New Hampshire. And I have to tell you, folks, I'm a customer. I have been since 1984. And I think everybody likes to get soil underneath their nails. Right, Chrissy? You like to get soil under your Chrissy? No? You don't? All right.
Nope. My mother does. My mother might.
I do. And I'll tell you, for questions, knowledgeable staff, friendly staff, Lake Street Garden Center, and I'm saying that from my heart because that's a place that I go to. I don't know how many times during the course of the summer. Anyway, Tim, welcome to the Sicilian Corner, my friend.
Thanks, Mike.
Good to have you here.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah,
Tim.
Next time we'll have to get you. Next time we'll have to get your mother in.
Yeah. So like I said, she has. She's actually back at the garden center now as we speak.
How old is your mom now?
She is going to be 79 pretty soon.
So she's my age. I thought so.
Okay. Yeah.
She's doing the seeds now.
So
I love it.
She still plants all of. We grow actually still quite a good portion of our stuff from seed, and she actually plants every single one of them.
Tommy, you had a question?
Well, no, it is a family-owned business. I want to make sure.
Yeah,
it's a family-owned.
Yeah.
And you guys have been in business since I think 74. It said, right?
Yeah.
I actually have a picture, Tom, of Tim. When the garden center opened up, they had the ribbon cutting.
Yes.
You must have been beginning of high school?
Well, I think I was probably. I was in Winnie the Pooh coveralls, so I was probably all of 3-4 years old.
I'm sorry, I dated you a little bit.
Hey Tim, one thing that Ellen and I obviously we use a local garden facility near our house, and they're really good about answering questions and giving advice to us. Do you guys do that?
Yeah, we do a lot of it, and I think that's kind of one of our strong points is that we're really geared towards our area. And, if I came down to visit you, Tom, I'm sure, I wouldn't be quite as in my element as I am up here, having been in the New England area all these years. But, we see the problems that people are having. So a lot of times when someone comes in and they've got something and they're really concerned about it, it's about the 5th, 6th time we've heard it that day. So we, usually when these things happen, quite often it's happening to a lot of people. So we do a lot of that, and we like to stand. And even if it's something people haven't bought from us, we just really are invested in their success as garden as a gardener.
You don't hold classes, do you? Do you hold classes?
We actually have just kind of started doing them again. We don't do a lot during the busy season anymore, just because it ties our parking up too long, and we had some frustration with that. But either side of it, now that COVID is over, we hope to get back into it. We did actually hold one this winter for the first time since COVID, but we used to do a couple a month, and we're going to, eventually kind of get back up on the horse and maybe start, a little slower than that and kind of see how things go. But people have been asking for them.
Why don't you tell our listeners exactly what you have available on those 9 acres? 9 acres, that's a big piece of property. And some people are looking for trees, some people are looking for veggies.
Yep,
So why don't you explain to the people what you have?
Well, the trees will be probably one of the big ones coming along here because, as soon as the ground thaws, people want to plant something. And, the trees and shrubs are one of those things. They're one of the first things you can kind of plant outside and not worry about it being too cold and damaging them. So everybody's kind of been looking out and got that project. So probably beginning of April, the trees will be coming right along. We're actually growing a lot of things in the greenhouse now, getting them ready.
I noticed.
Yeah, and a lot of those. Then the pansies will probably be the next one you can kind of pull out of there, and some of the cold weather vegetables like the broccoli and the spinach and the lettuce and things like that, peas. But so we do actually probably about 90% of our vegetable crop. We have a lot of hanging baskets growing now. And perennials, a lot of people like perennials. So usually we'll start with the trees and the shrubs into perennials and pansies, and then kind of everybody can't wait till mid-May, Memorial Day, and then they can put in all the real colorful summer flowers.
We do not have a frost in the ground right now, do we?
It depends on where you are. For some areas, it seems like there is some frost in the ground. If kind of in the more shady north side of things, there's a little bit. If it's muddy on top, but there's a little frost in there. In other areas, I suspect it's out of the ground. But I think. We'll probably have trees and shrubs rolling in a week or two here. I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And but it's still you got to kind of keep one eye on the weather and one eye on the calendar. Because we're not quite into April yet. But so it's kind of early. Yeah.
Can I ask you a question? And this came up in our audience. We have Peter Scapolitti.
Oh yeah,
and
the tomato king of Salem.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. The guy grows 80-odd varieties of tomatoes, and I'm proud of you because you come by and you share the wealth with Tom and I. I think it's wonderful.
Yeah, actually, share some of them with me too.
The question he asked earlier was the price of fertilizer.
Yes.
What the heck? Gas has dropped. Don't tell me about transportation because I don't want to hear that. Yeah. That's a cop-out. That's a cop-out.
Yeah.
Everybody's using it.
Yeah.
We're getting screwed.
Yeah, well, the process of creating fertilizer is very fuel intensive, especially synthetic fertilizer. So I believe, I'm not positive, but one of the elements more so than the other. So your main elements are nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. And I believe one of those elements in particular are very fuel intensive. I think it might be the phosphorus, if I remember correctly. And so they're... Obviously, the price has gone up. Of course, there's more money on the transportation.
It's like double.
I
just went to get my four-step Scots for the lawn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I got to take a loan. I got to go to the ATM. Tommy, you have a question for Tim?
Yeah, I do, Tim. So let's get back to the planting of seeds. You said you do your own vegetables and annuals. Yep. Can you take us through the process? For a vegetable, what is the process of planting with a seed? How does that all work?
Sure. So depending if, what we do is a little different than what you would do as a homeowner. So, there's a lot of people like, Peter in the audience like to start some of their own vegetables from seed. And there's different ways you can do that. Some things, especially some of the bigger seeds, like a lot of the vine crops people like to do, like zucchini or pumpkins, sunflowers, when it gets warm enough, they can put those seeds directly right into the ground, which is, one of the easier things to do. But if things like tomatoes, if you kind of waited till the ground got warm enough and then planted a seed into the ground, you might not get your tomatoes to the end of the year.
Gotcha.
So that's kind of where we come in. Or if somebody wants to, like Peter, or anybody can really do it. You can start, a little ahead of time in your house just to get that plant a little bigger before you transplant it outside, just so you can get that yield earlier in the year. Because everybody wants to be the first in the neighborhood with the first tomato, right?
What would a homeowner need to start plants from seeds beforehand?
Sure. Yeah, so generally the biggest mistake we usually see with it is people start too early. So if you've never done it before, you can kind of, just start a couple weeks earlier, and then if you can always move it back a little bit. If you're not careful, they'll kind of stretch and tip over. So if you've never done it before, just be careful you don't start too early. But generally, all you need is a simple seed starting mix, just a tray or some pots, depending on how many, seedlings you want to do. You can basically just kind of press those seeds, and different seeds are different sizes. So some of them are very small, but tomato seeds are kind of in between. Since we're talking about tomatoes, you can kind of, you press those into a lot of people do them in a small seedling flat and then just lightly cover them with soil, gently water them in, and then basically put them someplace sunny and warm. The warmer the better. Typically, it'll speed up your germination time.
So you don't need grow lights.
Not initially. Eventually, as they germinate, once they germinate, if you could, if you have a nice sunny window, you may not need grow lights. Grow lights are a great supplement, especially when the days are shorter. Especially as you get a little more advanced and you're starting things earlier, and you almost want to have those lights right on top of your plants, and as they grow.
Oh, really? That close?
Yeah, and you just bring them up as they grow, and that'll kind of keep them. Because if you keep them up too high, they'll reach.
They get leggy.
Yes, exactly. They'll reach up, and next thing you know, they're tipping over. So,
Tommy, you have something?
Yeah, Tim, are there any particular varieties of tomatoes that grow better in, for instance, our climate up in New Hampshire and Massachusetts than down south?
For sure. There's a lot of, we try to select a lot of our varieties for New England so that, to basically take the homework out of it. But, for years, a real popular one is, everybody, again, wanting the first tomato. The 4th of July or Early Girl, the two real popular ones. But, I myself tend to like some of the heirloom tomatoes, which are, a lot more flavorful, but they tend to yield a little later. You don't, I can only use so many tomatoes, so I don't mind if I don't get tons and tons and tons because I can only eat them so fast. But the downside of some of the heirlooms, some of them can be a little more disease prone than some of the hybrids. But that said, they've been selected to try to, the people who've selected them over years and years and years of obviously trying to pick the ones that do the best. But for flavor, we try to pick the heirlooms that we usually do a little better in our northern climate. I really like, lately I've been liking the darker ones like Black Crim, Cherokee Purple seems to do pretty well for me. And we've been growing Sweet 100 probably forever, but actually Peter here in the audience we'll put a plug in for Pink Princess, where he's actually helped me procure quite a bit of seed over the last few years for Pink Princess. He actually introduced me to it, and anybody who tries it comes back asking for it. So we've been on a big, that's kind of been our holy quest, is to get everybody introduced to the cherry tomato, Pink Princess. Right.
I have a follow-up. Can you overwater tomatoes?
For sure. Yeah, you can overwater them, and especially when they're in pots, you want to be careful not to keep them too soggy because you can cause them to get some root rot. But generally water them, let them run a little towards dry, but not too much. If especially in pots, if you're really erratic with your watering, letting them get too dry, then soak them. As they start to fruit, you can get something called blossom end rot, where the end of the tomato will actually start to kind of rot. And that is quite often, one of the reasons for that is quite often because of inconsistent watering, kind of running one extreme to another.
We got a call this morning on the way down here from Roger.
Okay.
Surprise. Roger Trudell, who's a very dear friend of yours, who visits you, and he picks your brain. You pick his brain.
Yeah, right.
Very, very knowledgeable, just like Peter. Very knowledgeable. He wanted me to stress and to ask you a case you can make about some people shop by price.
Yep.
There's no question about it. Some have to.
Yeah.
Some don't.
For sure.
Okay. He said, when somebody's just starting off in gardening, they have a tendency to try to go to the big box stores because the prices may be a little bit cheaper.
Right.
And he said, but they can't answer questions because they just take somebody out of a department and say, okay, you're working in nursery today. I mean, most of what they throw away, it's sickening. I mean, I see dumpsters of plants. It kills me. It's like somebody stabbing me.
Right.
I can't imagine how it can be profitable because they don't take care of them. And what case can you make from, let's say, your business, Lake Street?
Sure.
Then go into a box store.
Well, I make sure I go to the box stores and see what they're getting for price. And I always say it's value, right? And, a value really has to do with, quality and price and service. The main, I kind of look at it as a triangle, right? And, and honestly, I don't think our prices are, in some cases I've actually
about the same.
Yeah, not bad. And honestly, I've seen things that are higher at my place. I've seen things that are higher in at the box stores. So I don't feel too bad about our prices. I feel we're in the ballpark, but the thing I do feel is, we do really strive to, if we don't have the answer, find it for you. and really get to the bottom of thing. I mean, we actually have a microscope actually at the business. We have a lot of our people are trained to use it. So I mean, we'll actually do you mind if I take this upstairs for a minute? And we'll
Do you really?
Yeah, and we'll so we can identify things on
Peter, do you have one of those? No.
Not yet.
Not yet. He will now. He will now.
But I mean, for bug identification or fungal problems, sometimes it can really help you hone in on things. And we have enough staff now who's worked with them for enough years and have enough training that they, I don't even have to get that involved with it in some cases.
Tommy, I have a follow-up on that.
Mikey, why don't we do this? Let's take a break.
Oh, okay.
We're going to take a break now. Tim is in the house. We've got the entire hour. We are going to be chatting.
Yeah.
We've got all kinds of questions. Hang in there.
This is timely, too. Okay. This is perfect timing.
Ciao, this is Esther of You, Me, and Sicily. I want to talk to you about Tommy Amin and the great staff at Butcher Boy Market. Families, foodies, and home chefs come together at Butcher Boy to talk good food and create traditions. They offer the best in quality cuts of beef, pork, lamb, poultry, and restaurant-style steaks and chops. Produce? All of their produce is hand-selected to complement any meal or even to make it your main course. Their deli serves fresh roast beef, turkey, and beautiful imported Italian cold cuts, cheeses, and antipasto. And don't forget the Butcher Boy Bakery, featuring sweet delectables from all over the state, as well as their very own bakery. That's Butcher Boy, where the secret to a great steak is, of course, the steak. Located at 1077 Osgood Street in North Andover, Massachusetts, in the Butcher Boy Plaza. Ciao.
Today, Lawrence General Hospital has affiliations with leading Boston academic medical centers. Top specialists from Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center and Floating Hospital for Children at Tufts Medical Center work with our local doctors to bring world-class care close to home. Today, amazing partnerships are happening at Lawrence General Hospital. To learn more, visit lawrencegeneral.org/today.
Italian artisan cuisine combines simple, fresh ingredients with time-honored preparation to create an incredible culinary experience. At Tuscan Kitchen, located in Salem's historic Depot District, talented chefs prepare everything in-house from scratch for all to see. Guests enjoy their meal literally in our kitchen as food is prepared right in front of you. Wood ovens burn from morning till night, roasting vegetables, baking bread, and firing delightful thin-crust pizzas. Prime steaks are seared on a wood grill. A rotisserie slowly roasts marinated whole chickens and lamb, while a pasta maker creates fresh fettuccine. More than just artisan cuisine, Tuscan Kitchen features the wine bar, live entertainment, weekly wine tastings, and elegant private dining and event space. Call 603-952-4875 or visit TuscanKitchen.com to make a reservation and learn more about the culinary adventure that awaits. In Italy, cooking is an art form. Tuscan Kitchen. Experience artisan Italian.
Essex Orthopedics and Optima Sports Medicine each pleased to announce the opening of their American College of Radiology accredited MRI unit at their location at 16 Pelham Road in Salem, New Hampshire. So now, in addition to receiving the best orthopedic care in the Merrimack Valley, as well as physical and occupational therapy at Optima Sports Therapy and Rehab, you can also have your MRI, all in one convenient location. The doctors and staff of Essex Orthopedics and Optima Sports Medicine have been dedicated to providing outstanding medical care to the Merrimack Valley in southern New Hampshire since 1984. Located on Route 97, just off Exit 2 from Route 93 North, on the second floor of the Workout Club of Salem. You deserve the best care, and that's exactly what you'll get from the board-certified surgeons at Essex Orthopedics and Optima Sports Medicine. Please call 603-898-2244 to schedule an appointment.
A loyal sponsor for the Sicilian Corner is Hilton Oil Company. Hilton Oil has been located right across from the South Lawrence Common since 1932 at 101 South Union Street. Hilton Oil Company specializes in 24-hour burner service, oil deliveries, including automatic deliveries, serving all the Merrimack Valley area, plus portions of southern New Hampshire. If you want your car fixed right the first time, bring it to Hilton's state-of-the-art service station. Remember, Hilton's is also a Mass State Inspection Station. Hilton Oil Company, 101 South Union Street in Lawrence. Call 978-687-9793.
This is Cindy,
and Mike Kunstler,
owners and operators of Four Oaks Country Club and Grazie Italian Restaurant in Drake, Massachusetts.
Grazie Italian Restaurant is the hidden gem of the Merrimack Valley.
Why is that?
In addition to the spectacular views overlooking the golf course, we have an incredible new chef, Oscar Figueroa.
We still have all the favorites, but Oscar has created a lot of excitement with his new specials.
Scallops, seared to perfection.
House-made ravioli with farm-fresh local corn.
And buttery, tender, lazy man's lobster, just to name a few.
You have to come experience Grazie Italian Restaurant for yourself.
Grazie Italian Restaurant, located at Four Oaks Country Club, 80 Meadow Creek Drive in Drake, Massachusetts. Hope to see you soon.
And
we are back with Tim from Lake Street Garden Center. Tim, my wife and I, our peppers stuck. We can't grow them. When we plant them, we'll get a yield of about 4 peppers the whole summer. What the hell are we doing wrong?
Well, now, and you're down in Florida, right, Tom?
No. We're home. I'm in Merrimack.
Okay.
I'm in Massachusetts during the summertime.
During the summer. No, I was going to say, where are you? Okay, so you're in Mass in the summer. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It sometimes on peppers, if it gets really hot, you can get an issue with their blossoming in the midsummer. But if it just from year to year, you're saying you don't get a good yield on them.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
They're small. They're just
Tommy.
The tomato yield is spectacular.
And you're not getting it. Peppers are always a little lower yield on sweet peppers, anyhow. I find, but you can get a good enough yield. You should be getting a little better yield, I think, than what you're saying, Tom. What have you been using for a fertilizer on them?
I don't know.
Oh, there he is.
My wife.
I thought we lost him.
Yeah.
Not on video, Tom, but we got you.
Right.
We got you on audio.
Talking.
We can hear you.
Okay.
So I can hear you, Tom. Yeah. So I would say, if you haven't been fertilizing them, just a little general purpose fertilizer, whether it's something like a general purpose, just a standard old garden fertilizer like a 10-10-10, or a lot of people like the Plantone these days to stay a little bit more on the organic side of things. If it's above in the high 90s, that's when people really start to notice a low yield because the flowers will abort quite often. Mm-hmm. I've actually found too, do you have a pretty decent garden soil there? I mean, it sounds like the tomatoes are happy.
Yep.
Yeah. So it doesn't sound like probably a soil issue. I'd probably just give them a little bit of, I'm just thinking there's another thing. Some people sometimes will give them a little bit of, I don't know the proportions off the top of my head. There's a product, but basically if you go online, it's actually Epsom salts. And,
oh, really?
Yeah. And
no kidding.
There's usually recommendations. You just give them a little shot of that. You dilute
no
that.
kidding.
And that quite often can make the plant a little sturdier.
Wow.
And a little bit, and it will quite often give you a little bit higher yield.
By the way, I'm back on now.
Yeah,
right?
you are. Tommy, I wanted to ask you, are you growing container peppers? Are you growing them in containers or in the soil?
Right in the soil, Mikey boy.
Yeah, usually. And you don't have too compacted of a soil by any chance, do you, Tom?
No, not at all. It's very loose.
Okay.
Ellen spends a tremendous amount of time out there fertilizing, doing what she has to do. Okay. And as I said, the tomato yield is beyond spectacular.
Yeah.
Last year, we had 6 tomato plants, and the yield was probably 500 tomatoes.
Oh, wow. Nice.
That's
and you got 4 peppers.
4 peppers.
2. Got 2.
Okay. You only got half of them.
Before we went to break, I was going to ask you, we were talking about the box stores, Tom. And most of these big, huge outlets, all the plants they bring in are not from the New England area, correct?
Right.
I would think they come from someplace that's relatively
exactly.
warm. So if you do buy plants and you bring them home and you get a little bit of cool weather that you're not expecting, you can really run into some serious problems, right?
And that especially comes up soon with the trees and the shrubs. A lot of times, we're very careful that we try to be careful how we take the plants in and where we take them from, because early seasons, if you bring, say, up a shrub that's all leafed out from New Jersey or even further south, and then you get a cold night where it's below freezing, you're going to lose all that leaves.
The buds are gone.
And damage that plant. Exactly. So we try to do what we can to avoid that scenario for people, and I don't see that sort of caution being taken,
And the
elsewhere.
fact that you grow a lot of your own plants, that's huge. Thanks to your mother.
Yeah, right.
Thanks to your mother. We have to. What's your mom's name, Mary?
Mary, yeah, and she does a lot with that, and like I said, she pretty much has all those plants, and then the transplant crew will take those seedlings and then put them into larger containers, which ultimately they'll go out for sale. And the other thing is the varieties. So even like back to your question on the peppers, Tom, you might just try a different variety if you use the same variety every year.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
There are other varieties.
He doesn't buy them. He doesn't buy them. Peter gives them to him.
No, that's
Peter
right.
or Roger give them to him.
Well,
no, we do buy a lot of our some of our stuff.
Do you really?
Yeah, we do.
I thought you were putting the arm on Roger.
No. Well, I think he did give us a pepper plant, but no, we bought them. We buy them at the local nursery.
Tommy, you have a question?
Well, something. Since this is an Italian-based show, Tim, let's talk about herbs like basil, parsley, rosemary.
The good
can
stuff.
You share, is there any wisdom that you can share with us on how to grow them up in this area?
Yeah.
Up in Massachusetts?
Sure. Well, the parsley is a little bit more cold tolerant than the basil. The biggest early season mistake we see with people, everybody wants the basil, right? Right, sooner the better. Yeah. But it's a heat lever. So usually, you don't rush to get that out too soon. Usually towards the end of May, you're a lot safer. We sometimes even hold it back a little bit because we know what's going to happen if people take it. But you can only hold people off so long. And if you get a cold night and you have it in a pot or something, you can move it inside. But once it's in the ground, that's the other thing. So I would say, don't hesitate to wait a little bit to the end. If you're going to put it in the ground, I mean, if you want to keep it in a pack, the pot it came in or whatever, that's fine.
If you grew basil and then the season was going to end, what's the process of trying to get seed from that? What do you have to do?
Sure, yeah. So generally, if you let basil, a lot of people will pick off the flowers as it flowers because you want the leaves. Typically, some of the chefs actually like the flowers. They use it for garnish and things like that. And but generally, if you keep picking off the leaves, it's going to keep it more productive. Once the flowers come, it's signaling to the plant what's next, the seed, right? Because so you kind of, if you let it continue on, those flowers will turn into your seed, and as they dry, you can kind of shake the dried seed out of them.
Okay.
And if you want to keep the seed and then start them again
put
next
them what,
year.
in an envelope or something?
Yeah. You can kind of put them out. I'd probably just kind of lay them on a piece of newspaper someplace where it's not too windy and dry, because that is a very small seed on the basil seed.
Oh, I'm sure.
And then just let them dry for a few days, someplace with a little bit of sun and not too much wind, and then you can just kind of pour them into like a little coin envelope or an envelope or something like that, and keep them for the following season.
Tommy.
Well, rosemary is another. I use, and my wife uses a lot of rosemary in our cooking,
especially with lamb.
That's kind of an easier herb to grow, isn't it?
Well, in containers, in the summertime, people have...
And that we do grow, by the way, in containers on the deck.
Yeah, that seems to be where people have the most success with it. It's a little... If you bring that in the winter, is where we usually see people have a problem with it, because it's a little day length sensitive. So you can supplement to light it. And the other the big one we see too is people keep watering like it's summertime.
Yeah.
It's not really using up the water because it's not really actively growing as much, and they rot the rosemary to death. So if you do bring it in, just make sure you kind of lay off. Get it in a nice sunny spot. If you feel it's really suffering, you can even add a couple days on with like a light with a timer or something on it to give it a few more hours of light. And don't overwater it because it will rot.
We have a question from one of our listeners, Audrey. Audrey lives in North Andover.
Okay.
And she's one of your steady customers.
Yeah.
She said to make sure I said hi.
I think I know which Audrey you're talking about, but
She says, I'm always impressed when I walk on the property, the arches that you guys create at Lake Street.
Yeah.
And she says, could you have Tim explain how they put those arches up there? I'd love to have one at my house. But you need heavy equipment for that, right?
Yeah, they are definitely, it's kind of one of our signatures.
You should see these arches, Tom.
Yeah,
Really?
It's something my dad started a long time ago. He used to do these columns. And then we said, well, let's put an arch over the two, columns.
The entranceway.
Yeah. So over one of our main walkways, we put this arch, and it's basically a plywood frame, is what it is. And we have, we kind of have a form that we lay plastic into, fill it full of soil, and kind of wrap it like
How much
a
is that
sausage.
weigh?
Once they're wet, several hundred pounds on each section. So we break it into 3 sections. So we have the 2 legs and the main arch piece.
Beautiful.
And we've reinforced it with 2x4s and bolted it all together so to make sure it's safe, because it is fairly heavy. And then after we fold the plastic, we kind of cover that all with chicken wire so that it doesn't peel out of there, and use little poultry staples to keep it from coming apart. And that gives us basically a form full of soil that we can plant into. Yeah. So what it is, it's 2 legs. People haven't seen it before. We'll put.
I put a picture on Facebook.
Oh, okay, great, great. Yeah, you can see it. Yeah,
I can see it. Yeah.
Yeah, and and basically what we have to do, we start it growing flat so that it'll fill out really nice and full. And then when it's looking good, then we will put it up in 3 separate sections.
How many plants do you think is in those arches?
I think there's usually around 400 at least.
Tommy, 400 plants in those arches. Yeah. Tom, you have a follow-up?
I don't have a follow-up, but I want to switch gears for a second. I know that you specialize in perennials, trees, shrubs, all of that good stuff. What about fruit trees? Very difficult. I remember as a kid growing up in downtown Lawrence, my grandfather was from Sicily. He was an immigrant. And in our backyard, we had a fig tree. And
every old Italian had a fig tree.
That for sure.
every year, he would go to great lengths to cover it, to bend it over, and then cover it in not canvas,
like a burlap.
Burlap.
Yeah.
He would cover it in burlap and then put hay on top of it.
Yeah.
Every year we had that fig tree for years and years and years. How difficult is it to grow fruit trees up in our region?
Well, the fig is one of that you're talking about. I've probably told probably hundreds, if not thousands, of people that technique that you're talking about, Tom, because because their grandfather did it, but they didn't pay attention and they want to know how to do it.
My granddad did it. So.
Yeah, right. So, and basically that one is really, for all intents and purposes, not hardy in our area. So that's why you have to go through that extra step of protecting and covering it. But there are plenty of options that are hardy. There's all sorts of bush fruit in trees and things like that. So, blueberries, raspberries, grapes, there's all hardy selections of those. They're real popular. Lately, apples, pears, peaches, plums, apricots, all things we can grow around here, cherries. So we stock a wide selection of, fruits, and, we try to do ones, we try to pick them. I mean, apples, there's some that are more disease resistant than others, and the hard time people sometimes have is apples is just sometimes they get some disease problems on them. But we usually try to pick some varieties so people have the option. Some people want to have the one they know. They want a McIntosh because that's the one that they know. But if we can talk them into a Liberty or something like that, or that might taste similar and have less, they'd be less likely to have to spray it to get a good looking apple.
How big are those? How big are those trees that you sell?
We usually say, they'll usually bear fruit fairly early on, but they're usually, an average person can handle them, but they're probably anywhere, around either side of 6 feet to start with, and once they're back in the ground,
That's not bad, Tom.
That's
not bad at all.
I mean, you won't get a huge yield usually right away, but usually you get enough to get a taste, so it's fun, and then they used to tell you on apples and like 3 to 5 years for fruit, and then apricots and anything with a pit, basically 2 to 3 years. But I don't even think that's true, because honestly, I see them sometimes in the nursery fruit right up in the pots. So I think that's right out the window.
What's your feeling container planting? How do you feel? Are there more problems associated with doing something like that?
Well, anything, to be the bearer of bad news on anything that's a fruit tree or anything that's a hardy plant, generally we're just a little too far north. So what happens in a container if you leave it out there outside for the winter? The top of the tree is usually hardy. It's usually the roots. They're used to being in the ground where it never really gets too much below freezing. So you get it up above ground, we get it goes down to 0 degrees. The roots are going down to 0 degrees. It kills the roots, actually. So unfortunately for that type of thing, but in terms of container gardening for, the seasonal stuff, especially people who are limited on space, or they don't want a lot of work.
Patio, something like that.
Yeah, your decks, patios. I mean, that's a great option for people, especially if they don't have a big area to garden. And even if you do have a big area, sometimes it's just nice. They're a little higher up. They're easier to pick as you get older.
Oh, yeah,
right?
it saves your back.
You know, right?
Yeah, I do know. Tommy, you have something for Tim?
Yeah, Tim, let's talk about, we've had you guys have had some late snow this year. Last week.
The only snow.
Pretty, well, I understand that, but does that do damage to the fruit crops? A late snow like this?
Usually, I mean, we're still early enough where to the fruit, hopefully it will not. The thing that usually does damage that you hear about a lot with fruit crops is when, especially the earlier flowering things, once they come into bloom, if the blooms get damaged, because the blooms basically is what become your fruit. So a lot of times orchards, if you hear about a really late cold night later when the apples are in bloom, like in May or something, that can really mess up their yield. The big one, homeowners who have apricots and nectarines, that sometimes, those are going to come into bloom fairly shortly, believe it or not. They're really early bloomers.
Wow.
And the cool thing about it is if it doesn't get too cold and the blossoms don't get damaged, you get early fruit. You get your apricots and your nectarines, so one of the first things to bear. The bad news is because they bloom so early, it's not uncommon every couple of years to get a really cold night and have the blossoms get damaged, then you don't get any fruit. So
I wanted to mention the wind. I think the wind is a bigger culprit for damage than anything else, in my opinion. Because snow acts as an insulator.
Right. Oh, yeah.
It's the wind
that
causes things to...
Yeah, and especially things, it can, the heavy snow, too, can just, can cause breakage and things like that. Especially this late season snow, it's heavier. It
has 3 inches of water in it.
Yeah, right. Right. So, but, I mean, a lot of people, the big thing we get a lot of calls about this time of year, I think I actually was talking to you about it, even, Mike, when you were in one day not too long ago, about the bulbs. You see
we were talking about the daffodils.
Yeah, you see those pushing up through, and people get really concerned that they're going to get damaged because they know, okay, it's a nice day today, but the cold's coming.
And you know something? I was just walking around the property yesterday, and some of the daffodils, some of the leaves look a little bit, I'm going to call it burnt because I don't know the exact term. Yeah. And I'm hoping, I mean, they're up, they're like yay big and everywhere now.
Yeah.
Before it was only around the foundation, Tom, because you had the heat from the house. And now, I mean, I put in 185 bulbs, and every one of them they're all up now.
All up,
so I'm hoping that the flowers meet up to my expectation. Because last year, breathtaking.
Yeah,
absolutely. It was beautiful.
Good. Yeah, well, usually on that, if you do get a little damage on the tip of the leaves, what'll happen is, the flower is usually down nestled into the center of all of that. And so a lot of times they'll stay brown, but the leaves will elongate and push out, and hopefully they won't be as noticeable, especially by the time that flower bud comes up above everything and comes into bloom. Hopefully you won't be paying any attention to the leaves anymore.
Well,
usually they're fine. So.
In Nantucket, somebody gave 1 million daffodil bulbs and industrials.
I think.
And they brought them to the kids in school, Peter, and they passed them all out, and the agreement was they were going to plant them wherever they lived. So you go to Nantucket in Easter time, because they have a big, huge parade, antique cars and all that, and it's daffodils in the middle of nowhere. Daffodils, and of course they multiply, correct?
Yeah, exactly.
And the whole island is abuzz with flowers. It's absolutely gorgeous, Tom.
Yeah.
You should see it. It's absolutely
I think I have read about that.
Wow, it's something to see.
And that is the great thing about daffodils, is if you can kind of put them someplace where you allow them to kind of spread, they will spread over time, which is kind of nice. They can almost naturalize.
Tommy?
I have one other question. We got getting back to tomatoes for a minute. We kind of stumbled upon. Obviously, you got to be careful with chipmunks and everything else eating your tomatoes.
Yep.
So you know what we did? And I was telling Peter this the last time, and Roger. What seems to work for us? We have a raised garden, and that's where our tomato plants are. Mm-hmm. We'll take about a dozen of the rotted tomatoes that have, whatever, and we put them on the ground surrounding the raised garden. And they don't eat our tomatoes. They eat the tomatoes on the ground and take them with them.
That's a good idea.
become like a shield for us. It's really worked effectively.
That's a good idea.
Worked effectively.
Well, I like that, Tom. Kind of draw them away.
That's it.
Yeah.
Little sidetrack. Up in
Mike, we got about a minute, Mikey.
All right. I'll save this for when we get back.
Let's do this.
I do want to talk about your dad.
Oh, sure.
He was the brains behind all of this.
Oh, yeah.
This is very interesting gentleman.
Yeah.
We'll take a break, Tommy, and like I said, when we come back, we'll talk about his dad and how all of this got started and the good things that are going on at Lake Street.
We'll be right back.
Ciao, this is Esther of You Meat and Sicily. I want to talk to you about Tommy Amin and the great staff at Butcher Boy Market. Families, foodies, and home chefs come together at Butcher Boy to talk good food and create traditions. They offer the best in quality cuts of beef, pork, lamb, poultry, and restaurant-style steaks and chops. Produce? All of their produce is hand-selected to complement any meal or even to make it your main course. Their deli serves fresh roast beef, turkey, and beautiful imported Italian cold cuts, cheeses, and antipasto. And don't forget the Butcher Boy Bakery, featuring sweet delectables from all over the state, as well as their very own bakery. That's Butcher Boy, where the secret to a great steak is, of course, the steak. Located at 1077 Osgood Street in North Andover, Massachusetts, in the Butcher Boy Plaza. Ciao!
This is David from the Sicilian Corner. You know, Mike, Tom, and I love to go to Salisbury Beach, but we love different things and can never agree where to go. Tom likes the casual family-style dining with the great Italian cuisine, Capri's Seaside Italian Kitchen and Pizzeria. Me? I love the elegant romantic vibes Sea Glass with the amazing view and terrific menu with prices that make it the place you want to visit each and every week. Mike loves a drink in his hand and a cool ocean breeze right off the surf and the rhythms of a cooler reggae band. We all know Mike loves Bob Marley tunes at Surfside. Who doesn't love a great show? National acts, comedy, regional favorites in the beautiful and intimate Blue Ocean Concert Hall. Lucky for us, Atlantic Hospitality is the host of all of these great places, and they treat everyone like they are Mike Lomazzo. Best of all, we never have to choose. Park the car once and all this fun is right at your fingertips. You can have it all in the heart of Salisbury Beach. Find out all the ways you can have a great night at Salisbury Beach at northshorepavilion.com. And Mike, Tom, and I will see you there.
This is Tom Zappala. Located in the heart of downtown Haverhill, the Haverhill Beef Company is a full-service, old-fashioned butcher shop and meat market that continues to be a valued family tradition since 1952. Peter and Monica Carboni's Haverhill Beef offers individualized service from an outstanding selection of marinated sirloin tips, homemade sausage, marinated chicken, and thick, juicy Chairman Reserve steaks. Your family deserves the best, so call Peter at 978-374-4795 or visit their website at www.haverhillbeef.com.
Hi, this is Mike, and I would like to tell you about the Deborah Care Law Offices, a firm that is focused on estate planning, probate, trust administration, and elder law issues. You will feel comfortable discussing important issues concerning both you and your loved ones, as well as having the information you need to make an informed decision about your family's future. How do I know? Because I'm a client of Dan Deborah Care. If you want to have peace of mind knowing that your loved ones are protected, call Deborah Care Law Offices today. In Massachusetts, 978-686-4645. In New Hampshire, 603-894-4141.
At Catadella Funeral Home, we reinvest in our business to provide your family with the best facilities. It begins with a beautifully landscaped exterior, parking for 250 vehicles, and a comfortable and inviting access to our renovated interior. Funerals can be costly, so you should review and compare plans to make sure you receive services that are fairly priced. I invite you to experience the Catadella difference in cost, facility, and service.
Catadella is honoring and celebrating the lives of the people we loved, providing exceptional care since 1929.
This is Cindy.
And Mike Kunstler,
owners and operators of Four Oaks Country Club and Grazie Italian Restaurant in Drake, Massachusetts.
Grazie Italian Restaurant is the hidden gem of the Merrimack Valley.
Why is that?
In addition to the spectacular views overlooking the golf course, we have an incredible new chef, Oscar Figueroa.
We still have all the favorites, but Oscar has created a lot of excitement with his new specials.
Scallops, seared to perfection.
House-made ravioli with farm-fresh local corn.
And buttery, tender, lazy man's lobster, just to name a few.
You have to come experience Grazie Italian Restaurant for yourself.
Grazie Italian Restaurant, located at Four Oaks Country Club, 80 Meadow Creek Drive in Draycott, Massachusetts.
Hope to see you soon.
Okay, we are back chatting with Tim from Lake Street Garden Center. Mike, you said you had a question?
Yeah, I'd like you to tell our listeners, because a lot of people that are going to watch this show knew your dad very well.
Yes.
And unfortunately, we lost your dad about 3 years ago.
Yep.
And he was hands-on, just like you.
Yeah.
And I would like you to just explain the concept of Lake Street, how it came to be, Lake Street Garden Center.
Sure. Well, I mean, it really was my dad's kind of love and brainchild. I mean, it was his whole life, really, and so, he, I think, he had actually 12 years of formal education in horticulture. He would intern.
Yeah, 2 degrees.
Yeah, and he had worked at the Arboretum under Harvard in Jamaica.
Isn't that a beautiful place?
Oh, it's a great place if you get a chance.
Oh, my aching head.
Yeah.
Arnold Arboretum, Tommy, in Boston is absolute. Lilacs.
Yeah, Lilac Sunday, mid-May. You got to make it if you've never been there.
In the Auburn Cemetery.
Yes.
That's
Mike,
another one.
let him finish the story. Why don't you let him finish the story about his dad?
So anyhow, he'd worked there. He'd actually traveled in South America quite a lot, collecting plants for the National Arboretum, and he was actually working on his PhD. And I think my grandparents realized if he went off to be a professor someplace out, I think he was looking at like Washington State, and they said, "Is that what you really want to do?" He said, "Well, no, I'd really like to, own a garden center, but we can't really save up enough money to get it going. We got some money saved." And he says, my grandparents said, "Well, you know what? We'll kind of help you with that." And
wow.
So my grandfather was kind of in the construction trade, so he basically they helped fund some of it. My parents had saved some money to buy the land that we operate off of now, and so they bought it from actually one of the neighbors across the street who wouldn't sell it to anybody else, and but they would sell it to my dad. So,
he wanted a good neighbor across the street.
Right.
No condo development there.
Right. So anyhow, and so they basically they built the building. They built the first original greenhouse. It was obviously a lot smaller back then, and they actually started growing the first crop in '73. Because and my grandfather was very instrumental in getting all the structural stuff up and running. But my dad was the real plant guy, and he had worked at a lot of different places. And
he was in the Peace Corps, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was in the Peace Corps, and actually that's actually where he got a lot of his training in working in the jungle environment.
Exotic.
So that's why the National Arboretum wanted him, because they knew he'd be all right down there in the jungles.
That's a beautiful. Tommy, you have a question? Tom?
Yeah. No, I was going to say that place is gorgeous. Have you been there, Mike? You've been there, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's just to walk around that place is
it's breathtaking. And you know something? It's free.
Yeah.
There's nothing. Where can you get this free?
Yeah, you could, and a lot of people,
Zero.
especially in the wintertime, people, a lot of people don't know it, but we're open all winter, and so people just come in. It's warm in the greenhouses. We've got tropical
makes you
plants
feel
in
good.
there. Yeah,
It does.
and especially if the sun's out, it gets nice and toasty in there. Yeah,
a thorn in my side and also in Tommy's side, because I hear from his wife Ellen, is growing roses in New England.
Yeah.
How much of a problem? Right, Tom?
Yeah.
I mean,
she does a good job, but I mean, it takes a lot of work.
It sure does. You got to almost treat them like an annual.
Yeah.
I mean, she's always deadheading and doing all that stuff.
Yeah, well said, Mike. Some of them, it really depends on what you want to do with roses. There are a lot. We probably stock. We sell thousands of roses every year. We probably have hundreds of varieties, and so they can be as little or as much work as you want them to be these days. There are some excellent landscape roses. They're tough. I almost don't consider them roses. They're so tough and easy to care for, and they bloom all summer.
I got to get the names of those.
Yeah, they're very easy.
Are they climbers?
Not so much. There's a few that are a little easier with the climbers. They tend to be more shrubs, but generally we still sell a ton of hybrid tea roses because everybody loves the hybrid tea roses.
What smells better?
Well, that's the thing. They like the big long stem. They like that classic long stem roses, and they are probably one of the trickiest groups. They haven't quite gotten the hardy hardiness into those. You have to protect them a little more in the wintertime. Some of them tend to be more disease prone. And we sign all of our roses. We have a really good system. We do it kind of like skiing. So on our signs, we'll have the green circle for easy. We'll have the blue square for intermediate, and the black diamond for, okay, you got to really want this rose because you're going to work for it,
But you know something? You're spending a lot of money. You don't want to see the thing die in 3-4 months.
No, not at all. And
or not come back the next year.
And the funny thing is, if I had it my way, I'd sell the shrub roses because I know people are going to have good luck with them. But people want that long stem, right? So we still sell a lot of hybrid tea roses, and I get
What's that? The Floribunda? Is that what they call it?
Well, Floribunda's actually a different class of rose.
Bunches,
yeah, they have bunches of roses, exactly. And there's the climbing rose. The David Austin roses look like that old antique rose, but they tend to repeat bloom, and they're quite often a little smaller package.
The tricolor roses to me.
Yeah.
Primo.
And there's a reason everybody loves them. There's so much to like. There's a lot of different flower forms, depending on what type of flower you like, and the fragrance on a lot of them. And the fact that they are a great shrub for summer blooms. When a lot of our spring shrubs are done, the roses are still going strong.
Tommy, you have something?
Yeah, I wanted to ask Tim about water features. Water gardens are really, really popular now. Yep. Everybody loves them. A lot of people put them in. Can you tell us about some of the products that you sell or that you carry regarding water features? I mean, if I wanted to put a water garden in my house on my property, could I come to you? Or
Sure.
not?
Yeah, sure. We carry the basic supplies. If you're getting into a lot of the hard, some people do a lot of the hardscaping themselves actually. So we do sell the rubber liner.
You do?
Yeah. We do sell the rubber liner in different widths, 3 different widths. We make sure it's the one that's fish friendly. So if you want to have fish in the pond, versus like a roofing rubber. And then we sell an assortment of different pumps, to keep if you want to do a waterfall or a fountain or keep the water circulating.
Oh wow!
So we have that type of product in stock. We do a lot of plants as well. We're actually about to pot up a lot of the water lilies this coming week. So we grow some of our own water lilies from the tubers. So we have hardy. We do a couple tropicals too because they bloom a little bit more, and some people like to play with them. Yeah. So.
We had the house prior to the house that we're living in. We had built a house.
I was going to bring that up, Tom.
We built a house out in Southampton, New Hampshire. So there was this big boulder sitting there, and we had a patio, and the boulder was probably about 4 feet high, 5 feet high. And I said, wow, this would be great for a little water garden. So we hired a guy who actually drilled up the back of the boulder and threw it.
Oh, wow.
Right.
And we created a waterfall. It was probably about 10 feet in circumference.
Oh, wow.
And it was great. We had koi fish. We had all the proper material.
And what happened, Tom?
It's called Harry the Heron.
Oh, wow.
Field day.
Harry the
Smorgasbord.
Heron.
Yeah.
Harry the Heron would come for his hors d'oeuvres every single day. And we even had the net. We had the goddamn net over the water.
Oh, wow. And he still got it in.
He still got it in.
Yeah. We had the fake owls. He would knock the owls over. So that was the end.
So much for the fish, huh?
On your property, Tim, if you had an unlimited budget, what would you like to create? What would be a project that you think that your customers would really enjoy seeing?
Well, I think one of the things I've always thought about is kind of having a walkway that was covered. So depending on no matter what the weather, if it was raining, they could kind of hop in and hop out of right over the main walkway that we have.
But it doesn't seem to deter people. I've been there, and it's been drizzling. Heavy drizzle.
It doesn't.
And the place is packed. I can't even find a pocket space.
As an owner, you always have a certain amount of guilt, right? You want to keep everybody, take good care of them, right?
Well, something. You do that. You do that. Your staff.
Guys,
I just want to say, Tommy.
We have about 2 minutes left.
All right.
We have about 2 minutes.
Your staff, compliments to them.
Thank
and you get this. They're back every year.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how. In today's working condition, you're very, very fortunate. You must be a good boss.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It depends on the day you ask them, probably. But yeah.
Why don't you give the people your website?
Yeah. It's our website is obviously www.lakestreet.com. lakestreet.com. So Lake Street, all spelled out, one big word, lakestreet.com.
There's some
How
great
many employees
information.
do you have, Tim? How many employees do you have?
We'll be getting close to 50 pretty soon here. We're not quite there yet, but as probably in another week or two, we really ramp up.
Very impressive.
Yeah,
Very impressive.
we are our employees, so we couldn't do it without our staff.
I have one last question.
Yeah, go
mulch. Do you sell mulch?
We only do bagged. We don't do bulk mulch. So we just do it
Okay.
as a convenience item if you're in there and you need a little bit to top
Our
something
guest
off.
today on the Sicilian Corner has been Tim Wolf. And you know something? It's been a pleasure. I hope you come back. I really do. Because we haven't even touched an iota.
Oh, yeah. Well,
and
I
Peter
can talk
says
about
you got to
plants,
bring
Mike.
him back. You got to bring him back.
Mikey, do me a favor. Next time you go over there, pick up 4 or 5 pepper plants for me, will you?
Well, it's too early to get them now, T.
No, I'm saying when it gets better. Just let's give it a shot. you know?
Okay.
We'll see if we can get them a better variety.
I'll ask you. You tell me.
I'll tell you what, Mike.
You tell me
I'll
what.
tell you what I'll do. You get me the pepper plants, and I'll grab a coconut off the ground and bring it home to you.
Boy, you're lucky that didn't hit you in the head, man.
You're not
you
kidding.
You
You're
would
not
have had a major concussion.
All right, Tim. Hey, thanks so much for coming on board. We hope to see you down the road.
Okay, sounds good, Tom.
And next time, bring your mother, Mary, in.
Yeah, okay.
Exactly.
Okay, thanks.
Appreciate
Mike.
it.
Okay,
To our viewers and listeners, remember, if you can't make fun of yourself, please don't make fun of anyone. Have a great week.
And I also want to say anything is possible. Have a
Great.
good one.
Have a good one.
Audio Jungle.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Café, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.